Lindsey, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey Annette, thanks for having me.
I've been wanting to have you on the show because we're going to be talking about how to get more clients, more bookings, more leads and inquiries coming in, and then how to actually convert those people into clients and paying clients. I know it's something that a lot of people either struggle with or feel like it's an area that they could improve on when it comes to booking more sales. But before we dive into all of the wonderful wisdom you're about to impart on us, why don't you bring our listeners up to speed about who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. So, like you said, my name is Lindsey Nickel, and I've been a wedding planner for the last 10 years. I started my business in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and now we've moved to the Napa Sonoma area. And I recently launched a new business where I'm coaching wedding planners on how to stand out in their flooded markets, attract awesome leads, and book more clients so that they can be successful and balanced in their wedding businesses. So I do one-to-one coaching and I sell courses online and I love it.
That's awesome. So let's just dive in.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's go for it. I mean, it, like you said, a flooded market. It does feel like whether you're in wedding planning, you're a photographer, you're whatever business you're in, it feels like you're one of a million options out there nowadays. So, what are some tips that you have for people to stand out in what feels like a very competitive market where, you don't always have the benefit of getting the person on the phone. The attention spans are a lot shorter these days. That we're being so inundated with marketing and content all the time. What are some of the tips that you have found to work?
Yeah, so I jotted down some of my favorite and best tips. So if you guys are listening and you're not driving, grab a pen because you'll want to remember these things. So the first one, and I know you guys hear this all the time, so I'm going to say it again, like you really have to know who your ideal client is. With everybody on the internet now and so many people probably having your same job as a wedding planner or wedding photographer or wedding florist, you really need to speak to like one very, very specific person so that when that couple is on your website, they're on your Instagram, they're on, excuse me, your Pinterest, they feel like this person is talking exactly to me. They get me. I must learn more about them. I need to talk to them. So really dig into like not just the demographics of like, their age and how much money they make and where they live, but also think about them as a person. Like, do they volunteer? And if they do volunteer, where do they volunteer? Do they volunteer at the land trust? Do they do trail repair or are they volunteering, reading to kids after school? So think about like their personality also, because that is really going to be something that they're going to be looking for in your website to make sure they can see them in your website. So again, ideal client, never lose sight of that. Then the next thing, the website. So we all know websites are super important. And I would say like the number one thing I tell people, and it's surprising how many people still don't do this, is mobile friendly website. If your website is not mobile friendly, they will immediately navigate to somebody else. And it just says like you're an outdated wedding professional too if you don't have an updated website that's mobile friendly. Also, make sure your contact form is mobile friendly because a lot of platforms, it's like two separate pieces. So just remember to check your contact form on mobile and on the desktop. Make sure that works because they need to be able to actually contact you. And make sure it's short and sweet too. People probably don't want to spend more than 3 minutes, I would say, filling out that contact form. So just get the very, very key information and then you can follow up with them to get more information. So those are like some really quick things for the website that I think sometimes people forget, but they're so crucial. What else? So then another one is on social media, and this kind of ties back to the ideal client. Make sure your social media feed, and I'm specifically thinking about Instagram here because we all know that couples love Instagram. Make sure your feed is cohesive. So what I mean by that is if you have like a ranch wedding and then you have a beach wedding and then you have sort of a moody, like dark photo and then you have, I don't know, like tons of balloons in the next photo, like that doesn't all look like it came from the same person. So it's the person reading or looking at your Instagram feed, they're confused about who you are and they don't see how they fit into those things. Maybe they're dreaming of a ranch wedding, so they're really excited about, the first photo, but then they go to the next one and it's a beach in Miami and they're like, well, I'm not getting married in Miami. So really look through your Instagram feed, make it cohesive and make it speak to your ideal client. And then the hardest part, and I have done this myself, so I can attest that it's not easy, start deleting photos. So if you have a darker, moodier photo that you just love, but all the rest of your feed is like bright and bold and cutesy, you got to delete that dark and moody one, even if you love it, because it doesn't fit. You can kind of think of all of the photos as like pieces of clothing in a closet. Like, do they wear all those same things, or is one of them just make absolutely no sense? So you got to get in there and delete in the Instagram feed. It's hard.
You can also archive photos, or posts. So if you're like, I can't, you're like the type of person who doesn't like to throw anything away.
I con Marie the photos.
Yeah, but just really quickly, I know obviously I understand the importance of having, a really focused vision of who you're trying to target. But I could just feel people thinking, but I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I don't want to just be this. I don't want to, where is that line? How do you advise people to draw that line of, okay, I'm just only going to do weddings on ranches or events on the beach? Or is it, how do they have a little bit more leeway?
Yeah, so I don't think it's totally black and white. And I was actually just thinking about this the other day. So, if you live, I'm going to use wine country as an example because that's where I live. I live in wine country, and if you are someone else who's in like a wine country type of area, probably most of your weddings are wine country-esque. But if you talk to a couple and they're like, I'm getting married at this posh hotel, and maybe it's new in wine country, or maybe it's like 10 miles outside of wine country, and you just really hit it off with that client and you have a good connection with them, and you're in their budget, and they check off a lot of other boxes with your ideal client, go for it. Like, you really just have to follow your own instincts. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think people do think what you're thinking, like, oh, now I only have to work with this one specific person. But at the end of the day, you're in charge of your own business. And if you really like someone and you guys hit it off and you feel like you just got off the phone with one of your best friends, try to book that person, because you'll probably work really well together, and then they're going to leave you amazing reviews that will get you more clients like them. So I have one more tip that is another one that I'm surprised people kind of forget about. But for your reviews, make sure you have your reviews on each page of your website, not just the reviews page, basically. And that is so valuable to talking to your ideal client and figuring out, like, okay, they're worried about winter being too cold, and how will you handle that in your area? But maybe you had a client like 2 winters ago that left you a great review about their winter wedding and how you brought in these heaters that not only looked good, but kept everything warm, and you had s'mores for them. So just copy and paste part of that review onto another page of your website, so that every single page has a review that talks to your ideal client. Again, you really want your ideal client to be like, this person is talking to me and they are describing exactly who I am and what I'm envisioning for my wedding.
Awesome. That's a really good tip, I think. And having a system for collecting reviews on a regular basis. I've definitely, I don't want to say made that mistake, but it's really easy to systemize that as part of your offboarding process of a client, so that you can get those reviews, you can document them, you can have them put up on your website or made into cute social media graphics or whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree. That. Just having them on the Knot or Wedding Wire is not the safest idea, because what if Wedding Wire closes or sells or whatever, and now your reviews are gone? So make sure wherever they're housed, that's like another platform, you've copy and pasted them or screen grabbed them. Like, all I do is screen grab them and put them in a folder on my desktop. So make sure you keep them in a way that you can always access them, even if that platform is gone someday.
That's a good point. Let's dive into that call. Or let's say you've gotten your the inquiry. What is the next step that you recommend? What are some things you can do on the call to help convince somebody to book with you, so that they're not just doing price shopping and trying to find the cheapest deal, because
Yeah.
this isn't really a commodity here. What are some tips that you have that can help people connect and close better?
Yeah, so during the phone call, I always think of it as like give, 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 sell at the end. So you just want to listen to them, talk to them like a regular person. I always like to like take notes. I also have everybody fill out a really short questionnaire ahead of time. They're a little bit more committed now. Like they've filled out a questionnaire, they've made an appointment with you, like they're starting to become invested. And they're also signaling to you that they're interested in your services. So a short questionnaire where you can ask like, which vendors have they booked? How big is your wedding party? And then collecting that information ahead of time kind of helps you to formulate what you want to talk to them about. And I also love to ask in that questionnaire ahead of time, like, what do you like to do in your free time? You will learn so much about your ideal client. Like if they say, I love to watch Netflix, I love to go hiking, and I love to volunteer at the animal adoption place. And you can talk to them about that during your call because you're really interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So you just want to get to know them, find out what they like to do, find out what they're wanting for their wedding, find out what their expectations are for your service, and then give them something. So this is your opportunity to give them a taste of what it would be like to work with you. So give them like one of your best tips, or if they're really looking for a vendor they're having a hard time finding, then you can say like, let me give you a referral for two of my favorite DJs, basically, if they are like, I can't find a DJ. And now you've given them something of value and you've given them a taste of what it would be like to work with you. And then at the end, give them a really relatively brief summary of your services and how your services will help them have an amazing wedding day. And then at the end, you need to make it like basically asking for the sale, saying, okay, like, how does this sound to you? Let them answer it. And then I'm going to send you a proposal and a contract. Is that okay? And then they'll probably say yes. So they'll be expecting it. So you have to ask for the sale and ask for the next step to make it happen, basically.
So much good stuff in there. I love the idea of that question to get to know them a little bit better, just outside of just as human beings. I think that
Yeah.
creates a really great, connection point. Hopefully a genuine one. You could totally connect with them on like your mutual love of, I don't know, some Netflix show. But, and I love the idea of giving them value up front and demonstrating what you can do. Do you ask them to make a decision right on the phone, or is it more like, okay, here are the next steps?
So I don't, because my wedding planning packages are priced in the luxury market. So that's a pretty big decision to make in 2 minutes, basically. But I do like we go over the package, like I kind of outline describe the services to them, and how that will make it like have a smooth and stress-free planning and wedding day. And then I say exactly what I said, like, okay, so how does this sound to you? And they usually say, oh, that sounds good. And I say, oh, okay, great. So the next step is I'm going to put this in a proposal and a contract, and I will email it to you through the platform that you booked this call through. And they say, oh, okay, that sounds great. And then I always end it with, like, do you have any other questions that I can answer for you? Because it is a big investment on any of these wedding services. And they probably want to talk it over with their parents or their spouse or whatnot. But I always make sure to send the contract and the proposal together, if not that exact day, for sure within 24 hours, because you have no idea how many other vendors they're talking to, how many other vendors that have your job they're talking to. And it just shows that you're so professional if you are prompt with that and you have a professional contract.
That is music to my ears, Lindsay.
Preaching to
Yeah.
the choir.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you know this, I always talk about that, like, contracts are a form of marketing in a lot of ways, especially, I mean, regardless of what market you're in, but especially if you're in a luxury market where people are investing, hundreds and thousands of dollars into a wedding. Like, no one's going to make that kind of an investment without having something in writing. And usually it's the parent who is making that investment, and a parent is going to want to have something in writing and have it be presentable and professional looking. And so I'm so glad that you do that, and you're teaching that to your folks, because it is something that can set you apart from the competition. If you think about, if I had 3 quotes and you get you get no contract, a shoddy contract, and a professional contract, it's kind of like a Goldilocks, right? Like, which one are you going to kind of have a more positive impression of? So
yeah, I always think of it as like good, better, best when I'm helping people get vendors or buying whatever for their wedding or just in like life. And the contracts are the same way. It's like good, better, best. And I've had like the spectrum of all the things. Well, I'm a worrier, which is probably why I'm a good wedding planner.
Yeah.
So I had a contract like right off the bat with a local guy in Wyoming before like all of these like online services and templates like yours existed. So that was good. And then I would like tweak it and it was better. And then finally, this is like how you and I met. So everyone has the whole story now. It was like, okay, it's time for an overhaul in like year 8 or 9 that I was in. And it does make a huge difference to have the best contract, because it's like having the best website. It's just another impression of what it will be like to work with you and how you will handle their wedding day.
Have you noticed a difference since we haven't talked about this? I'm just curious. Have you noticed a difference since you've changed your contract or updated it with what we worked on together, or no?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah.
It's easier for me, I must say, because my old version, since it was like the Wyoming person who had put it together, who was great, and then I had kept adding these like specific wedding things, I had kind of put myself in this annoying position of having to make these like 5 edits to every contract. And now I don't have to make those 5 annoying edits anymore. It's just all totally bundled together, and it's very neat and organized. And I have had to like reference the contract since I've started using your templates and saying like, actually, there's a $500 fee. Please refer to blah, blah, blah in the contract. And that end of discussion, there was no more problem anymore.
Nice. And I know I have my contracts for my services all put into a system where it's so nice. It literally takes me a minute to send out it. Not even like it takes me like 10, 20 seconds to send out a contract, which makes it so much easier for me to get those out. The faster you get it out. I remember I went to a Wedding Wire conference one year, and they were saying how important like responsiveness is nowadays, which is a double-edged sword. But I think it basically boils down to having integrity, doing what you're saying you're going to do, and being professional. And, you are running a business, and people are investing in you. And when you think about it in that way, it's like, well, if I was spending this kind of money on somebody, what would I expect? And am I delivering that? What are some of the things that make people so afraid to ask for the sale? And how do you recommend people overcome those things?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I think people are afraid to ask for the sale for a couple of reasons. A, it's asking for something. It's really putting yourself out there to be told no, and it's money. So it's these like 3 very loaded things. And it's just like a muscle or like starting a new exercise program. The more you do it, the easier it gets. So just make it part of like your bullet points that you cover during your calls. At the end, practice saying it out loud if that will help you. Practice writing it down 10 times if that will help you. Just the questions of, what you will say to describe your services and how it will help them. Maybe that's like 5 to 10 sentences. And then, how does this sound to you? Question mark. Let them respond. And then, okay, I'm going to send you a proposal and a contract. And, I'll have that in your inbox in the next 24 hours. Do you have any more questions I can answer for you? And just keep practicing it. It's just like anything else. You just have to keep practicing it till where it doesn't feel like new and awkward anymore.
A-Rod has like this new show on CNBC where he helps retired athletes and celebrities who've like made really bad financial decisions to kind of come back. Oh my God, I can't remember the guy's name. He's a really famous boxer. He was helping. But anyway, he was telling him how when he first started, A-Rod had this like laminated like note in his wallet that he carried everywhere, and it was like 3 questions that he would always ask when it related to like a new project or something. And so it was Evander Holyfield. So he gave him his own version for when they were going to go out and pitch new products of like questions he should be asking. So that's kind of what I thought about when you were saying like write it down, practice it, so that if you're like kind of frozen and you're like a deer caught in the headlights, you can just kind of repeat back this script that you've written at
Yeah, it
least
just
to
becomes
get
so much
through
more
it.
natural if you've actually said it 10 times, even it was just to your dog. Like the words just somehow come easier.
Yeah. Oh, I can just imagine myself talking. I talk to my dogs all the time, so
Oh,
that
so
would
do
be
I.
funny.
My office assistant, my dog.
That's funny. In fact, I was talking to a friend this morning. She wants to do this new service, and she just was like, she's just been so used to doing things for free or for very, very like little amount of money. And I just went off on her and I was like, no more doing things for free. Like you're providing a valuable service to people, you need to feel comfortable charging for it. And I go, sometimes you need to just like do it once or twice to prove to yourself that it's like a viable like idea or service. And I said, if you can't do it for yourself, sometimes think about like you're doing it for somebody else. So like every time you do something for free or you don't ask for the sale or you don't, you discount your services to a point where you don't feel comfortable, you're taking that away from your family or your loved ones or, and that might motivate you if you can't,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes we just tend to be like, oh, it's okay. It's just my time. We tend to justify it, but those things don't pay the bills.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it is really easy for people to get into that cycle of like, oh, it's just my time. But like your time is so valuable. You could be spending that time, with your kids, helping them with their homework. You could be spending that time going to the gym. You could be spending that time like gardening or making a healthy dinner. So it's just one of those things. And I personally struggle with that for a long time, not charging enough. But it's amazing. Like once you start charging more, and of course you have to like seriously deliver on those higher prices, people don't push back on your prices. It's like buying a bottle of wine. Like if that bottle of wine is $75, it must be good, no questions asked. But if it's like the $12 bottle or the $7 bottle of wine, it's like, okay, why? You got to start thinking about it more, and maybe you're not going to get it.
That's funny. I just told her that too. I was like, there's a perceived value. It's like, when was the last time that when you got something for free, you really used it, or you got something on a discount? Like it's those things that you spend money on that you value more because if you feel like you have more like skin in the game. But
yeah, definitely. And it's very fascinating to me, the whole mindset around all of that and things for free. Or I actually just won tickets for Hamilton in the city, the $10 lottery.
No way.
Yeah, so I just won, and it made me like start thinking about all of this. Like, okay, they're charging $10 for, obviously there's marketing stuff behind that. But I was like, if they gave these tickets for free, would those people still show up? But they've invested $10. So I bet their return of people coming to see it who won the lottery ticket is higher because people have an investment even though it's only $10.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I want to go back to when you said that you struggled with this, and then once you made the change, what was that turning point for you of you're like, okay, it's time for me to like kind of step up my prices, step up my like the sales and whatnot, so that I can get those quote bigger and better clients?
Yeah, oh my God, that's such a good question. So I'll try to make it a shorter version. So a couple things happened, I think. And the first one is like when I had the business in Jackson Hole, I actually had 2 businesses. I had a nonprofit consulting business and the weddings. So the weddings, they got my attention like when I was working on them, but I wasn't putting as much into the business end and profit making really good money off of that like I could have. It was just kind of like a side job. And it was like, oh, some extra money and like that's fine and whatever. And then when I moved to Napa and I was doing just the weddings, I started at that like kind of lower price point. But I was starting to see, I was like, wait, these other like bigger, more luxury planners are offering the same package as me and charging more. Like, I should just charge as much as they are. So I did. And that is like the long story short of why. I was like, wait, I'm providing the exact same service at the same venues. Why am I charging less? That doesn't make any sense at all. And then eventually I realized, again, like, if I charge more, I could take on less clients and I could give each client more attention and a higher touch experience and only work with people who are in my ideal client like bubble, I guess. Like we've talked about, like, it doesn't have to be exactly your ideal client, but one that you really resonate with. And all of a sudden I was like, I like my job so much better. I like my clients so much better. I can afford to invest more in my businesses. I think that's probably like right around when I bought my first template from you and I started doing online advertising with like more luxury platforms. So it really changed a lot of things in my business and in my life and how much I enjoyed running my business.
So did you find that the type of clients that were reaching out to you were different as well? Like, was it a good or bad?
The clients are actually about the same, like the same kind of person. So like my ideal client, we say we work with stylish hands-on couples that want to have fun on their wedding day. But that person comes at like all different budgets basically. So like when I first started, it was a lot of like, my aunt is going to make the cake and my friend is the photographer. But they had the same like personalities, I guess. Like they're really grateful. They were all about having an event that was with their friends and family. But as my price went up, they were, they had more. Now they are at like a $20,000 venue, let's say, and they're going to pay for those services. But this is like their personalities are the same. Like they still want friends and family and food as the focus. They just have bigger budgets and to pay for that, and it makes the wedding day less stressful for me because instead of worrying like where the aunt is with the cake, a professional with a cake has showed up ahead of time and it's the proper temperature and it's not melting and all of those things.
Yeah, that's funny. It's like I've heard, like my aunt's gonna do the catering,
Oh
and it's like,
man.
oh, that can be really hard,
Yeah.
as a planner, to coordinate all the people there. But awesome. Well, Lindsey, thank you so much. Are there any kind of last minute tips you want to share with people before we let them know how they can find you?
I would say I would actually go back to what we've been talking about because I've been thinking about in the last few days. Don't get so hyper focused on your ideal client. If you talk to someone and you really click with them and you could see yourself like hanging out with them if you met them at work or something, that's probably someone you should be working with. And make sure you ask for that sale after you talk to them.
That's awesome. And, all of this is an evolving process. Like we're all learning, we're all growing, and we all start from somewhere. And just want to encourage people to kind of push themselves out of their comfort zones a little bit. If you have the desire to work with higher budget couples, for example, maybe make it a goal for yourself to start doing that, like booking one in the next few months or something. And it's like, it's almost like what I told my friend. It's like you have to just prove to yourself that you can do it, and you can just start small and just start with a really attainable goal, and then it kind of snowballs from there. So, Lindsey, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, of course. So they can find us online, of course, at lovelydaystrategy.com. And if it's okay, we have a free mini course I can tell people about real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Yep. So it's called How to Stand Out in a Flooded Wedding Planner Market. And it's a free online mini course. You can find it at lovelydaystrategy.com/stand-out-course. So it says standout course. And yeah, people really liked it.
Awesome, Lindsey. Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you continued success in all that you do.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.